It takes up to $1 billion to build an AI data center, up to $30 to $40 million a year just in electricity, and in many cases, 3 to 5 million gallons of water every single day to keep it from overheating. That's not a factory. That's modern AI data center. Now scale that across hundreds of facilities being planned by companies like Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, and Amazon. Suddenly, AI stops looking like software and starts looking like infrastructure, heavy, expensive, and dangerously dependent on something we don't have enough of. Because while AI feels instant, invisible, almost infinite, it's quietly becoming one of the most power-hungry industries on Earth. And the system underneath it was never built for this. This is the story of what happens when a technology that feels weightless turns into an industrial machine that's running out of fuel.
Monstrous facilities called data centers are springing up everywhere.
By 2028, we are expecting to double or possibly even triple the amount of energy that's going towards data centers.
A single data center in the past used to be 10 to 20 megawatts. Now that number has started to be more 100 to 500 megawatts.
For decades, we have been believing that it lives in the cloud, weightless, frictionless, infinite, but the cloud was always just someone else's computer. And now with AI, that computer has turned into an industrial-scale operation. Training a frontier AI model can require tens of thousands of specialized GPU running for weeks or months, consuming enormous amounts of electricity. Serving that model to millions of users in real time adds a constant, compounding load. Sam Altman once put it bluntly, the cost of intelligence is going to be high. An AI data center is not a quiet server room in the back of an office. It is a power plant that happens to contain computers. A single large hyperscale data center can consume anywhere from 20 to 100 plus megawatts of power continuously, equivalent to powering tens of thousands of homes. The very largest facilities are now measured not in megawatts but in gigawatts, each campus using as much electricity as a mid-sized city or even an entire US state. In the United States, data centers already consume about 4.4% of total electricity. AI-specific workloads are a rapidly growing slice of that, projected to reach roughly 5 to 15% of all data center power by 2030. That's not background noise. That's a structural shift in how the grid is built. A traditional Google search is lightweight, but an AI-generated response can require multiple times more compute. Now multiply that by billions of queries every day. This is where the illusion starts to crack, because power grids were never designed for exponential demand. They were designed for predictability, homes, offices, factories, not for AI systems scaling overnight. In Ireland, data centers already account for about 21% of the country's total electricity consumption. Regulators have warned that if that number climbs to a third of the national grid, the system could be pushed so far that rolling blackouts become a real risk. New data center construction in Dublin and the surrounding region has been effectively paused until 2028. In parts of the United States, utilities are forecasting massive spikes in demand driven almost entirely by AI infrastructure. Projections suggest that entire new load pockets could be created, some of them so large that they would rival the total consumption of entire states. Here, the demand isn't optional, because this isn't just growth anymore, it's an arms race. Microsoft is pouring billions into data centers to maintain dominance in cloud and AI. Google is expanding aggressively to keep its grip on search and AI-driven services. Amazon is scaling AWS to stay at the center of it all, and none of them can afford to slow down. Because in this race, falling behind doesn't mean losing market share, it means becoming irrelevant. Even Elon Musk has warned about what comes next. We will have an electricity shortage next year or the year after.
We have a silicon shortage now that will transition to a voltage transformer shortage in about a year.
That's not speculation. It's a warning from someone building AI systems at scale. Here's what most people don't see. The benefits of AI are global. Anyone can use it, anywhere. But the costs, they are brutally local, because data centers don't exist in the cloud. They exist in real towns, using real land, drawing real power, consuming real water. Imagine a single facility consuming as much electricity as tens of thousands of homes. Then imagine multiple of them being built in the same region. The grid doesn't just stretch, it strains. Utilities are being forced to upgrade infrastructure, new transmission lines, new substations, new backup systems. And those costs don't only land on the companies. They ripple outward into public systems, into pricing structures, and into your electricity bill. And yet, when you type into an AI tool and get an answer in seconds, none of that is visible. You feel like you're interacting with pure software, free, effortless, and infinite. But behind that simplicity is a system running at full capacity every single second. Electricity is only part of the equation, because all that computation generates heat, and heat kills machines. So data centers cool themselves using massive systems, sometimes air, but often water. In some facilities, cooling requires up to 5 million gallons of water per day. That's equivalent to the daily water use of an entire town of 10,000 to 50,000 people. Together, the roughly 5,400 data centers in the United States already consume around 449 million gallons of water per day, over 160 billion gallons per year. And now AI isn't just competing for energy, it's competing for water, land, and infrastructure. In places where droughts are already a growing concern, this is not an abstract issue. It's a fight over whether a town's water supply will be used to power your next AI chat or to keep taps running in people's homes. This isn't just an American story, it's a global pattern. In the Netherlands, hyperscale data centers have come under intense scrutiny. Last year, the government imposed a de facto moratorium on new large facilities, requiring special licenses for sites bigger than 10 hectares and more than 70 megawatts of power. The reasoning was blunt. Hyperscalers take up a lot of space and consume a disproportionate share of available renewable energy. In Ireland, as data centres climb toward a third of the national grid, regulators have already paused new projects in key regions. The system is simply not built to absorb that much load at once. Across the United States, local communities are starting to push back, not against technology itself, but against imbalance. Because when a project benefits the world but burdens the local system, the math stops making sense. According to a 2025 report by Data Center Watch, local resistance has forced the delay or cancellation of data center projects worth tens of billions of dollars. In just one stretch between March and June, more than $98 billion in proposed data center investments were either abandoned or pushed into limbo. This resistance is not partisan. In town halls across the country, you see Republicans, Democrats, Conservatives, and environmentalists united by a simple question: who is really paying the price for this AI boom? And the likely answer is when the citizens say no. In 2025, something remarkable began to happen across the United States. Communities started to win. In states like Virginia, dozens of activist groups have formed specifically to slow or stop new data center projects. They're fighting over noise, power demands, water usage, and the transformation of rural landscapes into industrial campuses. In Indiana, one of the most striking victories came in Indianapolis. In Franklin Township, on the southeast side of the city, a rezoning proposal known internally as Project Flow would have turned nearly 470 acres of farmland into a massive Google data center campus worth around $1 billion. The company and local utilities projected that the facility would need roughly 2 to 3 million gallons of water per day, on top of enough electricity to rival a small city. Supporters pointed to tax revenue and infrastructure investments. But residents were skeptical. They argued that the project would offer only a handful of permanent jobs, while straining local water and power systems and reshaping the character of a rural community. The pushback turned into an organized campaign. Residents organized under groups like Protect Franklin Township, packed city-county council meetings, and demanded that the project prove its local benefit. City council members, many of whom were already wary of the power and water demands, began to signal that the rezoning might not get approval. Then, on the night of the vote, something unexpected happened. Minutes before the Indianapolis City County Council was set to cast a final decision, a Google representative stood up and announced that the company was withdrawing its rezoning petition. The room erupted in applause. Hundreds of residents had just forced one of the world's most powerful tech companies to back out of a billion-dollar project. It wasn't a boycott. It wasn't a federal ban. It was a local council, a handful of ordinances, and a community that refused to be treated as a cheap power plug for the cloud. The illusion of infinite AI cracks. We've been thinking about AI all wrong, not as infrastructure, but as innovation. But innovation doesn't strain power grids. Infrastructure does. Every technological revolution eventually hits a constraint. For oil, it was supply. For manufacturing, it was labor. For AI, it's energy. Unlike software, energy doesn't scale infinitely. It requires generation, distribution, physical systems that take years to build. And that's where the term infinite AI starts to sound less like a promise and more like a marketing gimmick. The cost of intelligence is high. The cost of running that intelligence at scale is higher. And that cost is being negotiated in real time, not in boardrooms, but in town halls, in county councils, and in the homes of people who suddenly find out that their town is being used as a power plant for the internet. What happens next? This doesn't mean AI stops. It means it changes. Companies will chase efficiency, not just better chips, but better cooling, smarter scheduling, and AI-driven power management. Governments will be forced to rethink energy strategy, from grid-level planning to how renewables are allocated. Communities will start asking harder questions before new data center projects are approved. How much water will it really use? How many actual jobs will it bring? Who pays if the grid has to be upgraded? And the illusion of infinite AI will slowly fade into something more grounded, more physical, more real. The next time you open an AI tool and get an answer in seconds, you're not just using software. You're tapping into one of the largest industrial systems ever built. One powered by electricity, cooled by water, and stretched across the limits of our infrastructure. The real question isn't how smart AI will become. It's whether we can afford to power it.